Do you recognize me, human? I'm your first love. The station speaker crackled overhead, announcing that passengers for Shuttle 472 should proceed to Dock 9. Ethan Murrick groaned as his backpack thudded against his side for the third time that morning, the auto-adjusting straps still refusing to calibrate to his shoulders. He smacked the side of the harness, which chirped in protest and tightened like a vindictive snake. "Don't hiss at me. I have a wrench and no self-control," he muttered. A boy nearby stared at him. Ethan stared back until the kid blinked and scurried off. Dock 9 loomed ahead, flanked by security drones shaped like floating trilobites. Their lenses swiveled, scanning faces, transmitting pulses of authorization data. One gave Ethan a suspicious buzz. He smiled nervously and waved his clearance badge. The drone emitted a beep that sounded far too judgmental for a soulless object. He boarded the shuttle. Artificial gravity clicked into place as he stepped through the threshold. A recorded voice welcomed him aboard, suspiciously cheerful for a corporate AI. "Welcome to your intra-orbital shuttle experience with Helion Transit. Your seat may or may not be padded. Please do not remove your restraints, even if you think you're better than physics." He collapsed into seat 12B. Next to him, a woman chewed gum and watched a holographic soap opera featuring dramatic sentient plants. One was crying. Another accused it of betrayal. Ethan sighed. He was returning to Vega Aeon, the colony world he'd left behind almost 2 decades ago. Not because he wanted to. Not because he missed its bioluminescent jungles, its sky that pulsed green at night like a heartbeat, or the near-constant sound of vendors shouting things like, "Free neural upgrades with every purchase." He was here because someone had waved a grant at him. A real one, with credits attached and no hidden, "We own your organs" clause. The research was interesting. A rare flora, supposedly native to the ice fields of the northern ridge, had shown properties that could restore degenerative neural pathways. It was the kind of thing a xenobotanist like him couldn't ignore, or so he told himself. He glanced at the window. Stars smeared past like drops of melted light. The trip from orbital station to surface lasted 7 minutes, just long enough to second-guess every decision he'd made since age 14. As the shuttle landed, the voice returned. "Please exit in an orderly fashion. If this is your first time on Vega Aeon, congratulations. If it's your second time, we're sorry." He stepped out into the capital district, Arctis Prime. Everything was taller, louder, faster than he remembered. Hovercars darted between crystalline spires. The streets vibrated with energy, both literal and social. Aliens of all shapes and sizes brushed past him, including one spherical creature that offered to eat his taxes in exchange for a sock. Ethan declined. Barely. He ducked into the pedestrian flow, heading toward the research tower. His implants pulsed with minor navigation alerts, guiding him past noodle carts, mech suit dancers, and a street preacher insisting that the end times would be delivered via software update. Then she stopped him. It wasn't the usual kind of stop either. Not a bump. Not a distracted tourist holding up foot traffic. No, she stepped out of the crowd like someone who didn't believe in coincidence, placed her hand gently on his arm and said, "Do you recognize me, human? I'm your first love." Ethan blinked. She was tall. Her skin had the faint sheen of moonlight, her eyes a metallic silver that caught reflections like water. Her ears were long, delicate and angled backward, peeking through hair that shimmered in colors he didn't have names for. He opened his mouth to say something intelligent. Instead, he asked, "Did we go to summer camp together?" Her smile twitched. Close. Except there were no camps. Just the city of Saravalon? Saravalon, right, of course. Totally not making that up. She tilted her head, studying him. "You don't remember anything?" "Nope. And while I admire your confidence, I feel obligated to tell you I'm lactose intolerant and emotionally unavailable." She laughed. Not politely, genuinely. It hit him like gravity reasserting itself after a dream. "I'm not here to date you, Ethan Merrick. I'm here because you're part of something that was broken, and maybe it can be fixed." Fixed how? With glue? Therapy? Biotech duct tape? She stepped closer, and the world seemed to muffle around them. "You once promised that even if time forgot us, we wouldn't forget each other. Do you think your brain's going to get away with breaking that deal?" Ethan took a step back. "Lady, I once promised I'd floss every day. I'm not great with long-term commitments." She didn't laugh that time. He turned to leave. nearly collided with a robotic dog walker, and muttered an apology to a very muscular chihuahua. But as he walked, something in his chest burned. Not pain, not fear. Recognition, like hearing a melody he didn't know he'd forgotten. Later that night, in his temporary quarters at the research center, he tried to laugh it off. His assistant AI, a floating cube named Rollo, blinked to life. "Sir, you appear to be experiencing elevated serotonin levels. Would you like me to administer romantic rejection protocols?" "No, Rollo. I'd like you to play something relaxing. Maybe jazz, but from Saturn." Jazz from Saturn initiated. Please note, Saturnian jazz may contain paradoxes. Music filled the room, strange, spiraling, off-tempo. Ethan leaned back in his chair and stared out at the glowing city. Somewhere out there, an alien woman with long ears and silver eyes claimed to know him better than he knew himself. And the worst part was, he kind of believed her. The next morning began with an alarm that had the audacity to scream in 3 languages before Ethan finally threw a shoe. The shoe missed, ricocheted off the wall, and knocked over his synth caffeine dispenser, which responded by venting hot mist and shutting down with a melodramatic whine. "Great," he mumbled, brushing sleep from his eyes. "Day 2, and already at war with appliances." Rollo floated into view, projecting a holographic list of morning updates. "Would you like the summary, the long version, or the legally required version? Whatever version involves coffee and not talking to mysterious space elves." Then you should not check message 4. Also, message 3 includes a meme involving a space elf and a confused human. Your likeness has been used without consent, but it is trending with an 86% approval rating. Ethan sighed and pulled on a shirt that smelled like a lab in regret. He had work to do, and mysterious women claiming to be intergalactic soulmates were not on today's to-do list. The research facility, named the Lothari Institute, hovered several meters above the city's western sector. Built from transparent alloys and dark light glass, it resembled a jellyfish frozen mid-dance. Ethan arrived via lift pad, stepping out into the sterilized scent of ionic filters and ambition. The lead researcher, Dr. Amiri Dallin, met him with an arched brow and the eternal frown of someone who had lost faith in humanity halfway through their PhD. "Marek," she said, "you're late and disheveled. I'm trying a new look. Emotionally unavailable, time traveler chic." She didn't blink. "The specimen's chloroplasts are emitting a resonant frequency we haven't identified. You're the xenobotanist. Figure it out before it figures us out." He followed her into the containment chamber, where a low-glow plant pulsed gently in its sealed pod. Blue stalks curled like sleepy fingers. As he examined the pattern, something in the rhythm reminded him of music. Not a song he knew, not one he could hum, but he felt it, deep and low, the way thunder sometimes rolled through your bones. Behind him, a soft voice whispered, "Beautiful, isn't it?" He nearly headbutted the containment glass. She stood by the door. Sira? Uninvited, uncredentialed, and somehow still managing to look like she'd walked out of a dream and onto a security risk list. Dr. Dallin blinked slowly. "Is this one of yours?" Ethan considered. "She's more of an unsolicited download." Sira smiled. "I'm encrypted in his history." "That's not better," he muttered. Dr. Dallin, to her credit, took this as her cue to leave and muttered something about needing plausible deniability. Ethan turned to Sira. "How did you get in here? This place has biometric locks and facial scans and a sarcastic receptionist." "I bypassed the AI using an old Valari glyph sequence. The receptionist enjoyed the riddles." He stared. "Valari? That dead species no one's ever found proof of outside of conspiracy podcasts, and that one guy who wears 12 hats at once in the plaza?" She tilted her head. "The Valari aren't dead. Archived." "Oh, good," he said, pinching the bridge of his nose. "You're an alien archivist. Fantastic. Please tell me you don't alphabetize souls." She didn't answer. Instead, she stepped up to the containment pod and placed her palm on the glass. The plant inside responded, glowing brighter, the frequency humming louder. "You feel it, don't you?" she asked softly. "This isn't just flora. It's memory, locked in chemical chains." Ethan swallowed. "I've been having dreams, things I don't remember, places I've never seen. And then there's you, showing up like an interstellar rom-com with memory loss and bad timing." "I'm not a hallucination, Ethan. I'm not here to steal your attention or your research. I'm here because something old is waking up inside you. It's not going to be polite about it." He rubbed his eyes. Are you saying I'm some kind of alien reincarnation? Reincarnation's not the right word. Imprint, maybe? Echo? The Valari understood time differently. We weren't linear. We scattered pieces of ourselves across what you call moments. Your brain is remembering because it was never entirely yours to begin with. Wow, he muttered. And I thought my worst ex was intense, Sierra chuckled. This isn't about romance. At least not yet. It's about a promise. You made it. A long time ago. I didn't come to collect, I came to warn you. He raised an eyebrow. About what? Some ancient evil? The tax bureau? Another version of me trying to take my lunch money? Her smile faded. There's something coming. Something that feeds on severed timelines. The Valari called it Tethari. It hunts echoes like you. You were hidden in human biology to keep you safe. But now that you're waking up, so is it. And I suppose this means no sabbatical? No sabbatical, but possibly the survival of what's left of us. He sighed, leaned back against the pod, and stared at the plant that pulsed like a heartbeat. All right, he said. Let's say I believe you. What? We find the rest of you, she said simply. Your memories are scattered. Fragments. We have to recover them before Tethari does. That sounds like a quest. Is there a montage? Maybe a training sequence where I learn to glow? You always glowed. You just never noticed. He snorted. You're very quotable for someone technically illegal. She stepped back. I'll be in touch. Of course you will. I'll set aside time in my schedule between hallucinations and doom. She disappeared through a side exit with the grace of a myth and the timing of a bad punchline. Rollo floated into view. Sir, your cortisol levels have spiked again. Shall I initiate breathing exercises or sarcastic affirmations? Do both, and add don't fall for memory-haunting space women to the list. Noted. Ethan looked back at the plant. It pulsed again, slower now, like it was waiting. Somewhere inside him, a memory stirred. Not clear, not real, but close enough to hurt. The elevator ride to the lower archives took exactly 43 seconds, which was 37 seconds longer than Ethan would have liked to spend in a small box with a woman who claimed to be his reincarnated alien soulmate and possibly a walking space-time anomaly. Sierra stood beside him, calm, unreadable, with the kind of serenity usually reserved for monks or malfunctioning androids. He cleared his throat. So, we're going to break into a restricted archive vault in the heart of the most heavily surveilled scientific facility on Vega Aeon, because... What again? She glanced sideways. Because your past self encrypted part of your memory in a Valari data core buried under this building. And because the coffee here is terrible. That last one checks out, he muttered. The elevator dinged softly, and the doors slid open with a self-important hiss. A security drone hovered in front of them, scanning for badges, biometrics, and general suspiciousness. Ethan smiled too broadly. Hi there. Just two scientists doing totally normal scientific things. Nothing unauthorized. Nothing at all unusual, like ancient alien soul fragments or multidimensional threats. Just research. And a minor existential crisis. The drone emitted a suspicious chirp. Sierra stepped forward, tilted her head, and whispered 3 syllables in a language that made Ethan's skin crawl and his elbow twitch. The drone paused, then it blinked once, turned a gentle shade of lavender, and floated away humming a lullaby. He stared. Did you just hypnotize a drone? I asked nicely. They stepped into the vault corridor, long, quiet, and chilled to preserve the data crystals stored in chambers behind quantum-locked doors. The hallway was lit by soft blue pulses from the floor, reacting to their footfalls in a way that Ethan found charming and vaguely condescending. Sierra led them to a panel near the end. She brushed her fingers over the surface, and the wall responded, not with a click, but a soft harmonic tone. The panel melted into itself, revealing a cavity filled with something that looked like a fossilized jellyfish wrapped around a glowing core. Ethan squinted. That's not a memory core. That's a haunted light bulb in a jelly coma. She ignored him and pressed her palm against the tendrils. The core lit up. A pulse radiated outward, and the chamber flooded with holographic symbols that shimmered like they were underwater. Then he saw it. A face. His face, but not. Thinner. Pallor. Eyes the same storm gray but older, or maybe younger. It said something in that same alien language, and Ethan understood just enough to feel like his stomach had relocated to another galaxy. He staggered. Okay, I just understood myself in a dead language I've never studied. Either I'm going crazy or I'm about to get an interdimensional loyalty card. Sierra nodded. That's the imprint syncing. You're accessing the buried neural pathways. I was hoping for a sudden ability to play the lute, maybe bake bread with my mind. Not this. It again, faster this time, showing flashes. A city floating in skyfire, 2 figures standing beneath silver trees, a kiss, a war, something that looked like a planet turning inside out. Ethan backed away. That's not mine. I mean, it is, but it's not. I'm not that person. You were, she said softly, and maybe in some part of you, you still are. Well, that part can take a number. I've got a lab report due, an overdue sandwich, and a very annoying habit of pretending I'm not having an identity crisis. The holograms faded. The vault door sealed itself again with a whisper, as if it hadn't just upended Ethan's sense of reality like a bored god playing dice. They returned to the upper levels in silence. He didn't talk. She didn't push. The city outside the windows spun slowly beneath them, lights flickering like the thoughts he didn't want to have. Back in the lab, Dallin looked up from her console. You look pale. Did you fall into a vat of cryogel again? Worse, he said. I remembered a past life and may or may not have witnessed my own alien face declare interstellar love while watching the universe fold itself like origami on fire. She blinked. So, a Tuesday then. Sierra excused herself, leaving Ethan alone in the lab with a sample of glowing flora and a deepening suspicion that his existence had just taken a left turn through a wormhole of bad decisions. He sighed. Rolo, give me a sanity check. The cube blinked to life. Current status, sanity at 62%, rising levels of existentialism, suggesting snack therapy. Load up a sandwich recipe, extra cheese, make it symbolic. Symbolic cheese initiated. He slumped into his chair. The plant pulsed beside him, faintly echoing the same rhythm as the memory core. He reached out to it. The glow intensified, as if responding to him, resonating. Okay, he said aloud, let's say I don't run. Let's say I follow this madness to its conclusion. What then? The plant vibrated, emitting a brief burst of spores that shimmered and hovered in the air, forming briefly a symbol he'd seen in the memory core. A signature, a name, Kale. His name, not his name. Great, he muttered. Now even the houseplants are on board. He stood and walked to the window, watching the night bloom across the sky. Somewhere in the stars, something ancient stirred. Something hungry. Behind him, Rolo beeped. Would you like a bedtime story? No, I'm living one. Would you like it in third person? Ethan smiled. Just a little. No, let's keep it personal. The skimmer was a stolen government model, small and fast and far too elegant for the kind of escape Ethan Marek was currently part of. It hummed beneath him like a sleeping predator, threading through the misty canyons west of Arctis Prime, while Ethan clutched the dashboard like a man who just realized his pilot didn't believe in brake pedals. Sierra, of course, piloted one-handed, adjusting knobs and redirecting propulsion vectors while simultaneously explaining quantum soul fragmentation like she was reading off a brunch menu. To re-establish the full imprint, we need access to the core sanctuary beneath the old Valari outpost. It's partially integrated into the colony's subterranean infrastructure. Right? Ethan said, yelling over the wind. And remind me why the only way there involves breaking several interplanetary laws and possibly mild trespassing into an ancient alien vault? Because humans love building things on top of important things without knowing what they're standing on. Also, you signed the waiver. I signed a parking form. It had small print. They zipped around a rock spire shaped vaguely like a smug giraffe. Ethan exhaled. This isn't how I thought my week would go. I had plans. Very exciting plans. Cataloging root structures and possibly eating something that wasn't vacuum sealed. Sierra smiled. You always did love plants, even when you had wings. Wait, what? Nothing. You said wings. I said nothing. The skimmer dove into a ravine, disappearing into an ancient tunnel that lit up automatically, reacting to Sierra's presence. Walls shifted, old Valari glyphs illuminating like a memory stretching awake. Ethan caught glimpses of symbols he didn't understand but could almost feel, like pressure behind his eyes. They landed inside a hollowed-out chamber. Metal and stone fused together in designs that defied straight lines and common sense. It wasn't built, it was grown. Ethan stepped out and immediately tripped over a root. Sierra caught him. Careful, some of the architecture's alive. It resents clumsiness. Good, Ethan muttered, because what I needed was judgmental flooring. She led him deeper, past what looked like suspended crystal archives, small floating nodes that rotated silently, each one glowing with a different hue. They passed a levitating obelisk that flashed a warning in Valari script. Ethan instinctively, what did that one say? Roughly, no running, no shouting, no forgetting who you are. Ah, the Valari version of a school hallway poster. They reached a large chamber. In the center, a platform hovered above a pool of black fluid. Ribbons of energy danced between ceiling and floor, pulsing in time with Ethan's own heart, which he suspected was either very poetic or very alarming. This is the Nexus, Sira said. If the memory core you unlocked was a key, this is the door. Ethan stared at the platform. And what happens if I step on it? You remember everything. Everything? Everything. He hesitated. Even that time in 7th grade when I threw up during the solar eclipse presentation? Especially that. He swallowed and stepped onto the platform. It shivered beneath him, and the black pool lit up with starlight. The ribbons of energy shot upward, encasing him in a sphere of motion and sound. He didn't move, he couldn't. Voices whispered, not in his ears but in his bones. He saw himself, not himself. Kale, standing beside Sira, her form different but familiar. They watched a city burn from above, their hands linked, their faces grim. He saw their escape through collapsing sky tunnels, the pact they made to survive by scattering across time, anchoring pieces of themselves in civilizations not yet born. He saw the machine that carved a sliver of his essence into subatomic threads, waiting patiently for a compatible vessel to evolve. A vessel that turned out to be him, Ethan, human. With allergies and mediocre cooking skills, the vision ended. The sphere dissolved. He stood there, silent, his heart pounding like a warning siren. Sira waited. He looked at her. So, I was a warrior philosopher plant whisperer from a civilization that folded time like origami, and now I'm a guy who talks to potted ferns and once choked on a spoonful of protein dust. She nodded. Evolution is messy. He rubbed his eyes. This explains so much. The dreams, the plants, my inability to enjoy sitcoms without existential dread. Your subconscious has been trying to remind you. The plant you found is part of Valari Biosong. It resonates with our memory signatures. That's why you were drawn to it. Great, so now I'm a living post-it note from a forgotten species. You're more than that. You're a bridge, a witness, a possibility. Possibly very confused. She smiled. That too. The chamber shook. An alarm flared, low, vibrating, like a planet growling. Ethan turned. Was that supposed to happen? Sira's expression darkened. It felt us, the Tathari. It's coming. Define coming. Soon. Fast and angry. He groaned. This was supposed to be a research trip. I wanted a paper, maybe a lecture circuit, not a starring role in The Universe Is Trying to Eat You. We have to leave. Now, we have what we came for. The memories, the link. But if the Tathari reaches this sanctuary, it'll consume every echo left of Valar. Right? So no pressure. Just save the history of an extinct race, outrun a time-devouring cosmic monster, and maybe still get back in time for lunch. They ran. The skimmer re-engaged the moment they reached the surface, its engine thrumming with borrowed urgency. Behind them, the ravine shuddered. Dark tendrils of anti-light slithered up the canyon walls, chasing their heat signature like a predator smelling fire. Ethan strapped in and shouted over the engine. Please tell me we have a plan. Sira hit the throttle. Survive! That's not a plan. That's a wish. She smiled without looking at him. You always said that wishes were just plans with bad time management. Ethan leaned back, wind rushing over them as the skimmer shot into the clouds, pursued by something ancient, patient, and very, very hungry. He closed his eyes and muttered, Next time, I'm taking that sabbat. The skimmer's landing was less of a graceful descent and more of a semi-controlled crash into the outskirts of Arctis Prime. Ethan staggered out with smoke in his hair and regret in every joint. He glanced back at the twisted remains of their getaway vehicle and winced. Well, he said, brushing ash off his sleeve, at least we won't get a parking ticket. Sira jumped down beside him. We're out of time. If the Tathari breaches the colony's resonance threshold, it can fragment more than just memories. It'll collapse every shared thought form from here to the next drift chain. Ethan blinked. Okay, so it's not just after me. It's after all. Thought? Echoes, fragments, anything that once was but no longer is. It feeds on what you forget. Regret is dessert. So it's basically a soul-deleting trash compactor with philosophical leanings. Poetic, if terrifying. He cracked his neck. Right. So what's our endgame here? You brought me back, unlocked my inner space poet, showed me a terrifying death cloud that eats timelines. Now what? We finish what Kale started, him both. We use your neural imprint as a seed, broadcast it across the Valari relics embedded in the city's infrastructure. Together, they'll create a resonance wall strong enough to repel the Tathari, but only if you commit the rest of your memory. Ethan paused. What does that mean? It means letting go of your human identity, not permanently, but enough to remember all of Kale, enough to be whole again. He looked out at the skyline. Neon towers blinked like artificial constellations. Somewhere down there, someone was probably having a perfectly normal day involving coffee and small talk and not spiritual warfare against ancient memory monsters. I liked being Ethan Murek. I was average. I was bad at social gatherings and great at spreadsheets. I once cried watching an animated documentary about penguins in space. You're still him, Sira said. You just forgot that you were more. He took a breath. Fine, but if I start glowing, I expect applause. Deal. They entered the central relay chamber beneath the city's power grid. It was never meant to be ceremonial, just a large ring of quantum processors wired to a dormant Valari node buried beneath centuries of human upgrades. Ethan stepped onto the central platform. The node responded instantly. A flash. Kale rose. Not a ghost, not an illusion, just there. A version of him formed from memory and light. They stared at each other. Ethan frowned. You're taller than me? Kale smiled. You slouch? I do not. You always did when nervous? Ethan scratched his head. This is deeply weird. Kale nodded. And it's only going to get weirder. The node flared. Sira began the broadcast. The memory anchors embedded across the city awakened one by one. Ethan felt the hum in his skull like a tuning fork made of nostalgia. Then came the cold. The Tathari slipped into real space like a leak in reality. Not visible exactly, more like everything around it refused to be real. Signs flickered, drones crashed, people forgot what they were doing mid-step. A baby blinked and suddenly wasn't crying anymore. The first memory unraveled, a woman's childhood piano recital. Gone. Ethan stepped forward, hands glowing with energy not his and entirely his. He saw Kale's final day, the war, the sacrifice, the goodbye to Sira, too long, too short. He said her name now fully. Sirasil. She looked up, startled. You remember? He smiled. Everything. Kale's memories fused with his own, no longer two, just one, strung across lifetimes like constellations from the same sky. He turned toward the Tathari. He spoke in Valari, a word that wasn't a word but a meaning. No. The anchors lit up. The memory broadcast surged. All across the city, forgotten things returned. A boy remembered a missing pet. An old man remembered his first kiss. A shopkeeper suddenly recalled a lullaby her mother sang once. The Tathari writhed, starved, starving. This was not forgetting. This was remembering. Radiant, loud, defiant, it howled, a sound like silence screaming, and burst apart into threads of static, dissolving into the cracks of time from where it came. Ethan collapsed. Sira caught him. You came back. I had to, he rasped. I still owe you a date. She never change. Well, technically, I changed species, but don't ruin the moment. He rested his head against her shoulder. Was it enough? The Valari echoes are preserved. We're part of the stream now. Not gone. Not forgotten. The city woke around them. Ethan took a deep breath. So what happens now? Am I a walking library? Intergalactic memory stick? You're you. All of you. Kale and Ethan. Past and present. Alien and human. He stretched. Do I get a cool title at least? Like Echo Guardian? Or Timeline Wrangler? Let's start with lunch. Perfect, but if any more ancient species need saving before dessert, I'm charging overtime. They walked into the light of a new sky. For the first time in 2 lifetimes, he felt whole, remembered, and remembered well.